Wake up, wake up. It's November the 13th. Larry Krueger and Damon Bruce, the Niners got Deommodore Lenoir signed. There will be no Deommodore Lenoir holdout. We'll talk about that. It's Seahawk week. Let's go. Wait a second. Wrong button. Let's
lock
go.
in, Larry. Lock. Lock in, Krueger. God damn it. Don't make me go all Debo on you, man. How you doing?
Does that mean taking me courtside to a Warrior game like you did last night with Ricky Pearsall?
I guess we're all gonna hang out afterwards and be friends. I saw that Debo and Pearsall, I think, made it to that game. What a Warriors game! What a night back for Clay. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But welcome one and all to Wake Up, brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. It's really good to have you. And Larry, you're right, man. The 49ers, they're a sentient being. They're learning. I really thought that probably more than any other contract that could provide the opportunity for an offseason headache, it was going to be Deommodore Lenoir's. And I think the 49ers might have felt that. They also were looking at a player who is clearly worth the investment and the reward of the contract. And Lenoir is done. A 5-year, $92 million extension for a 25-year-old who is getting better by the week, it would almost seem, Larry.
Really great player. He had just an okay beginning, and then he just kind of took off, and he hasn't looked back. And Jordan Schultz was the first from Fox Sports to report it, I believe. Lenoir gets a 5-year deal for $92 million. No details on the deal yet. 18.4. If you take out your fancy dancy calculator, that's your average AAV. It's the 12th highest in the NFL among cornerbacks. So do you think he's a top 12 cornerback? I kind of do. So that's probably in his neighborhood. He's 25. He's been fantastic. He's great against the run. He's really good against the pass. He's a physical tackler. He was a success story for John Lynch because he was a 5th-round pick in the 21 draft. That draft that netted Trey Lance, but not a whole lot else. Well, Demo was in that draft and broke out in 2022. In the playoffs, he had a pair of interceptions, didn't allow a touchdown, had the huge hit in Philly on Swift, the old night hit late in that game. And then this year, he's backed it up. I mean, he had a really good 2023, Damon, but he backed it up. And this year, he's been perhaps their best defensive back. He's got 2 picks, 6 pass breakups, a forced fumble, a 65 passer rating when targeted. He's yet to allow a touchdown this year. He's played very physical against the run. So great move by the Niners.
99% of the 49ers defensive snaps. He's been out there. He's versatile. He can play the corner. He can play the slot. He's probably even a little bit better inside than outside, but I wouldn't have any hesitation to trust him out there either. Again, he's only 25 years old. I see that, we got in our chat, Invader 49er says Lenoir could have gotten more on the open market, but he's not a diva and he likes it here. I agree with all of that. He doesn't seem to be a diva. He does seem to absolutely like it here. He has been one of the guys who has sung the praises of Brandon Staley and how he has helped him improve. And I think he likes the situation. I think he's, when you're in a good situation, there's really not a reason to change it over something as replaceable and dumb as money. When you're a professional athlete and you look around you and think about it, he is part of the next foundational core of 49ers players, especially when you just break it down from a secondary standpoint. This has got a lot of young, talented players in it, and I think Lenoir likes the situation, and obviously the 49ers are thrilled with the situation they find themselves in with him. David Bonilla, 49ers Web Zone, said that Lenoir recorded 233 tackles, including 9 for a loss, 2 quarterbacks hits, 1 sack, 23 passes defended, 6 interceptions over his 4 NFL seasons, 56 game appearances, 41 starts, and again, where he is in the hierarchy of elite NFL corners, Larry, it's a great debate, but honestly, I don't care because where he is in the hierarchy of 49ers corners, I think he's number 1. I think he's their most important cornerback. Charvarius Ward is a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth. And this kid is, absolutely entering the prime of his career. This is a smart, very good deal for all involved. All parties walk away, I think, happy with this 5-year, $92 million extension.
I know I'm happy with it because that means that they're not going to have a holdout situation with Demo. And they just have, we all know the situation. They've had too many holdouts recently. And I'll say this, I think you're going to look at in a year from now and say this is maybe one of the best corner duos going. The Niners now have, and I'm not talking about Mooney, unfortunately. I'm talking about Renardo Green. Renardo Green has played 158 snaps thus far. He is Pro Football Focus's second highest graded corner. Wait for it. In the league.
In the league, yeah.
In the league. He was excellent in his first start at outside cornerback. Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenoir are going to be your starting cornerback tandem going forward. And it's going to be, and obviously Mooney the rest of this year, but when they go to sign Brock, they won't be able to afford Mooney. They'll probably let Mooney walk. But Renardo, who's just been Renardo's an interesting guy, Damon, because he's in a high-profile rookie class, maybe one of the most high-profile, right? With the way Pooney's been a plug-and-play, and heck, Ricky got shot, and you've got Malik Mustafa has these monster hits. Right. Garendo's like one of the biggest, fastest running backs in the league. So he's even Evan Anderson, who's is starting to be this wrecker as a run defender. So Renardo Green, a corner who's, really his greatest trait is he's super sticky in coverage. He doesn't get noticed very much. I just think the combo now going forward of Lenoir and Renardo, that's locked up the back end for the 49ers. Do they still need another corner? Probably maybe another one or two over the next, year, but to somebody to replace Mooney. But Lenoir now in the fold and Renardo emerging as not just a good draft pick, but a great draft pick. That's the duo, man. That's the duo. That might be the new kind of back end, lock you down, new age Niner D.
What is the status of Ambry Thomas, too? Because here's a player that I know it's easy to pick on him, and some of his less glorious moments have been circled and highlighted, and I get it. He's also had some really good moments, I've thought. Ambry Thomas is a guy who I think is, again, young enough to continue to invest in. There's a player in there just getting it to show up each and every Sunday. That's the job of the coaches. He, I think, is going to be in the mix going forward. Contractually, I don't know exactly where Ambry Thomas is, but I think that's another young player.
He's on IR right now.
I know that, but I don't mean where is he contractually?
I think he's a free agent at the end of the year, but I could double check. He might have one more year before he's a free agent. But they're also, I think, right now on the IR, Greenlaw and Yatir Gross-Matos are the guys that they're thinking about having return. They've also kind of mentioned there's a possibility of Hargrave. They've been people who are in Ambry and Hufanga and Elijah Mitchell, the other guys that are on the IR, but a lot of those guys like Hufanga and Ambry and Hargrave and Greenlaw, I think potentially could come back. Where Ayuk, Curtis Robinson, Drake, and Elijah Mitchell are done for the year, not coming back. So they have, they only have two guys that I believe can pull off season-ending IR and bring back. So. Who's that going to be? It's probably going to be Greenlaw and Greenlaw's on the PUP list. So it's probably going to be Hufanga and maybe Ambry. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes back. By the way, he is an unrestricted free agent in 2025. So, this year's injury might have made his price point a lot more digestible going forward. So we'll see if he's included in future plans. But again, what getting Deommodore Lenoir signed does, Larry, not only does it secure a very good player that you're putting a lot of trust in, I just think it makes the offseason easier, right? And that's one of the things that we both talked about. Here's a lesson from this year that you can take forward and apply to next year. And it is identifying players you want around and getting that contract done sometime before it festers, creates bad blood, gets into the media talking points, and the Niners are slow at doing business, and it's just kind of their way of going about business. Well, maybe you need to update your way of going about business, and it feels a little bit like this is what that is. Deommodore Lenoir, congratulations to him. Again, he's really the face, one of the faces of the next generation of foundational San Francisco 49ers. So no problems. I mean, look at it this way. Nobody in sports gets paid these days without somebody raising their hand and going, I don't like it. I haven't seen one of those yet. Yeah. I haven't seen one person say, I don't like this contract. Not one.
Well, it's proactive. He took a little less, which is why they got it done ahead of time. If he had wanted the chat kind of referenced it, right? If he'd wanted to really get every dollar on the table, he would have waited. Instead, he likes his situation. He wanted to stay. He's a great story, though. He was a top 100 prospect. Oregon pulled him out of Southern California. The Ducks do an incredible job at recruiting in Southern California. He was rated as the #1 athlete recruit in the country, and was the LA Times All-Star. He was an all-purpose offensive threat at Salesian High School in Southern California. And he played backup corner at Oregon his freshman year, and full-time starter in 2018, and then became a fantastic player, and selected all second team Pac-12 his final year there. And just he doesn't have long arms. A lot of times corners, you're looking for certain traits. A lot of times they're looking for guys who have long arms. He doesn't have long arms. He's a compact guy. He's got shorter arms, but he's very, very physical.
Right. That makes him hitter.
He's fluid. Fire plug. He's super fluid. He can transition. So if you noticed, that he just embraces every opportunity. So they want him to play press man, he's up on the line. They want him to play off man, he transitions very smoothly to off man. If you want to do a mirror match deal and you're playing man, he doesn't have big speed. He doesn't have huge long speed. But what he does is the #1 trait on the perimeter, believe it or not. Everybody talks about speed, but really the #1 trait on the perimeter is toughness and physicality. And this guy can play bump and run, and he can bang, and he will hit you. And he's improved greatly, Damon. He's really improved.
He's got pretty good hands. I mean, he high pointed a ball and came down flat on his back and still controlled it the entire way through the interception. A couple weeks ago, that was a beautiful pick. Was it a Dak, I think? It was a great play by him. He's a really, really good football player. He's only 25 years old. Again, you want to lock up a player as they're entering their prime that has already given you an awful lot of production. So this is an easy one, right? This was an easy negotiation for the Niners to approach, and obviously they hammered it all out. Team Lenoir did the right thing the right way. I also like this about him, Larry. I don't even know what his voice sounds like. The guy's not a talker. He's not an attention seeker. He's not looking to be on the gram. He's not looking to be on a podcast. Like Deommodore Lenoir basically, gave DK Metcalf the old what for after the last time they played the Seattle Seahawks. And that's the only time I've ever even seen Deommodore Lenoir even come close to like out of game strutting about anything. So he's
actually on his shoulder. He's actually hugely boastful. Like if you do an interview with him, he will be like, "Hey man, we're winning on Sunday." You know what I mean? Whereas other people would be like, "Hey, this is a good team," and he will kind of boast in the locker room. He doesn't do tons of media, but man, he's a great interview. I love interviewing him because he's one of those guys that he doesn't care if he gives the other team bulletin board material. He's gonna speak his truth. And I love guys like that. Those are the best guys to have interviews with,
without like a level of talking shit, which is being picked up, and that's it's all over the media and social media. Like I saw him take a shot at DK Metcalf afterwards, but that's really about it. By the way, we'll get into the Seahawks desperation level, which is significant, and whether or not DK Metcalf even goes this week. There's a few indications that he will be going this week out of Seattle. But Larry, Week 10 officially now in the books. How about the fact Mike McDaniel did a favor for his old team when the Dolphins took care of the Rams on Monday Night Football? The Cardinals put up an impressive win over the New York Jets. They're in first place in the NFC West, a win in hand as well over the 49ers, who took care of business, obviously, to move into second place in the NFC West. Both Seattle and LA are 4-5. At 5-4, the 49ers are actually a game behind Green Bay for the seventh and final playoff spot as a wild card. I don't think the wild card's coming out of the West, so win the division and beating Seattle this weekend is a huge step towards doing that. This really does feel, without the math screaming it's a must win, it kind of is. Again, for a team that's all out of mulligans and wiggle room, huge game against the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. 49ers looking for their first 3-game winning streak of the year. Seattle is hoping to avoid a 3-game losing streak. So desperate teams.
And Seahawks will be fresh. They're coming off a bye. They've lost 5 out of 6. They're in last place in the division. They're the most penalized team in pro football. Their last game
in conference play, just 1-4 in the conference, 0-2 in the West.
Yeah, they haven't won in the division. They haven't beaten the Niners in 6 tries. The Niners have won 6 in a row against them. It's funny how things flipped as soon as Russell left. Russell was dominating the Niners. He was whatever he was, 16-2 or 18-4 or whatever it was. He just owned them. He left. Brock showed up. The Niners haven't lost. They're 6.5-point favorites now, and they are beating them 6 in a row. Brock himself is 3-0. Now, or no, I should say he's 3-0 against Tampa. I don't know exactly his record against Seattle, but they are heavily penalized. And what we know about them is that their offensive line,
Seattle, right?
Their offensive line is big. Well, I don't, I think he is undefeated against Seattle. But how many is that? 3? I think maybe he's 3-0 against Seattle too. But Seattle's offensive line's a mess. They are getting Abraham Lucas, their starting right tackle, back.
Think they're getting him back. Today's the day, Larry. If they don't clear him today through his practice window, he's done for the year. So even if they don't think he can go, they can still elevate him to the roster and put him back on IR. But the big news in this game is Seattle's opened the practice window for tackle Abe Lucas, who came off the PUP list last month, but he hasn't been quick to return. They have used 3 different starting right tackles, rotating around his absence, including a guy, great name, bad player, Stone Forsythe, played right tackle for the Seattle Seahawks this year, starting 5 games. And he's allowed the most pressures of any lineman in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Stone Forsythe, better name than blocker, apparently. He's injured his hand, so he's been on IR. I mean, they were using Noah Fant as a tackle there for a second, and then he got hurt. So it's been a rotating door at right tackle, and we'll see whether or not Lucas is officially back this week or not.
Softy Mahler, I did an interview with him yesterday. He said that they're going to call him off the IR and that Lucas is going to go. But just to give you an idea of how bad they are, I mean, they're the number 1 passing team in football as far as they pass the ball more than anybody. They rush the ball less than anybody.
Which is weird because I like their running backs.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't open holes. I mean, it's funny. Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, first-year offensive coordinator, was a very pass-happy offensive coordinator at Fresno and at UW. And then, how about this? They're not getting anything done now on first and second down. Their average distance needed to convert on third downs is 8.9 yards. That's the average. The average that Gino's looking at is 3rd and 8.9. And it's the worst mark in the NFL. So they got to get it done. Their rush rate's 31%, second lowest in football. They did come out running against the Rams, but I mean, this was a perfect example. They ran Kenneth Walker 25 times, but he only got 83 yards. So they're not efficient. Walker averages 88 yards a game from scrimmage, which is 17th. He does have 7 touchdowns. But yeah, they're hurting. They're hurting on offense. And DK Metcalf has got an MCL sprain. He's likely to play in this game against the 49ers, but he's not 100%.
And I tell you
what makes them dangerous. What makes them dangerous is just that they're angry, that they've lost 2 in a row, 5 of 6, and they just cut Terrell, or they just waived Terrell Dotson. They traded Jerome Baker. They McDonald is shaking it up. And I'll say this: when he went there, I thought, oh no, the Ravens defensive coordinator is going to Seattle. They're going to have a strong running game, a killer defense, and they're going to be an incredible contender. Well, they have, you would think a great makings of defense, but they're not doing it on defense, and they have no run game to speak of. So this is a transition year. There's still a lot of people up in Seattle who are like, hey, where's Pete Carroll? We don't like this guy. So we'll see. We'll see if they can get it done. I mean, they're not getting turnover, or they're +1 in point differential. Niners are +31. So the Niners are trying to sweep them for the third year in a row.
Last time the 49ers saw DK Metcalf, too, they handed him his lunch. One of the worst games of DK Metcalf's career came earlier this year. He had 3 catches on 11 targets. Deommodore Lenoir and Charvarius Ward both did a hell of a job on him throughout the afternoon. It's his most targets and his fewest receptions in a game in his 6-year-long career now. So they have really done a good job on DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett is always a headache. I don't know how or why, but he just is. When it comes to headaches, though, it's amazing what a headache Christian McCaffrey has been to the Seattle Seahawks. I thought this was something else here, Larry. McCaffrey, who, by the way, was out there for 56 snaps in his return game against Tampa. So, they're using him like he's in midseason form. And with his 100 yards from scrimmage, he almost performed like it was midseason form. I don't think I have a problem with 56 snaps for McCaffrey as much as I have a problem with only 3 snaps for Mason, only 3 snaps for Garendo. That's the other side of that coin. We'll talk about that later. But Christian McCaffrey averages 163 scrimmage yards against the Seattle Seahawks. He sees them and he just thinks hot supper every single time, Larry. If he does it again this Sunday, if he has more than 125 scrimmage yards against the Seahawks this Sunday, he will join Jim Brown as the only players with 7 straight games of 125 more yards against one opponent in NFL history. Jim Brown, I guess, ate the Eagles up back in the day. He had 7 great games against the Eagles. But again, there are some uniforms that bring out the very best in some players. And Christian McCaffrey is like morphing himself into the ultimate Seahawk killer. If he does it again, more than 125 yards this weekend, again, he's joining Jim Brown. And whenever you're a running back, finding yourself in the same sentence with Jim Brown, something good is happening.
Well, and if you're averaging 163 from scrimmage in 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, it's one thing. This is 6 games. Right. He owns them. And, he's coming off a game where he had 107 total yards on 19 touches. I agree with you. I'd like to see them kind of give Mason, not forget about Mason and Garendo, but I'll say this. I mean, the 49ers are getting it done on first down. And that is one trait this year that, another angle where people are, Shanahan's terrible. Really? The 49er offense has not had Christian McCaffrey all year until last week, and have missed time with Debo, Kittle, Pearsall. Everybody's missed time as far as the weapons go for the most part. And the Niner offense this year, Damon, is averaging 7.05 yards on first downs. That's second best in the NFL to Baltimore, who averages 7.2 on first downs. But I mean, they are averaging, their record-setting, his record-setting Atlanta team on first down, I think, was averaged over 8 yards on first down. Niners are at 7.05 and it's second in the NFL. So they are, even though at times they're struggling to run when they need to run it, and even though they haven't had their number one runner, they're kind of like the opposite of the Seahawks. The Seahawks are staring at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 all the time. The 49ers are getting 7 yards on first down. So, you got to, even without Christian McCaffrey, the way Kyle has schemed it and with the backs he's utilized, they're getting it done on first down better than every team in the league except for the Ravens.
It's really odd because the criticisms and being skeptical of Kyle and this season and the offense. And it's been a weird year. We both agreed that there are some games where you look at it with your own two eyes and you're like, not very impressive. And then you open up the box score and it changes the way you think about that afternoon of football, because they're cranking out more yards and they're playing a little bit better brand of defense than your own eyes told you that they were playing. Again, 49ers facts. These aren't about your emotions. These aren't about your feelings. These aren't about how you think things are going. Here are the facts of the 49ers. Number 3 in offensive DVOA. Number 4 in defensive DVOA. The only other team top 5 in both categories is the Detroit Lions. That's it.
And so it's been like that for about 6 weeks.
Yeah. The 49ers are actually playing really good football around their incredibly mediocre results, if that makes any sense. And a big reason for that is their special teams DVOA is 31st in the league. So you have, a suggesting to be elite offense, I don't know about suggesting to be elite defense, but at least getting the job done defense, and a completely negligent, slipping on a banana peel, falling down a stairwell level special teams going on all the time. But they're number 2 in yards per play. They're number 3 in percent of drives that end in points. They've also punted the fewest times in the league. So, what is the truth? They've been unimpressive and impressive. Two things can be equally true, Tommy. And that's where we are here. I think that's where we are.
It's the margins. They're losing on they're actually okay on both sides of the ball. They're losing on the margins. They're bad in the red zone on both sides of the ball. They're not good at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. They haven't been this year. Last year they were awesome. This year they're not. And they're also not good at stopping other teams in the red zone for the most part. So that's one thing. And then, so you take in the red zone, that's changed their equation. And then the special teams. I mean, they just had another 3 missed field goal. I mean, they left tons of points on the table in this last game. I mean, the Niners special teams. I saw this week. This is kind of like an estimate. The Niners have gone mistake-free on special teams in only 2 of 9 games. The special teams for the 49ers under Schneider this year is responsible for 51 points against, if you include the missed field goals, the missed PATs, the kick returns for the touchdowns, or major punt returns that set up the opposing team in great field position and what stemmed from that. Yeah. When you factor in all those things, their special teams has cost them 51 points. That is a lot of points. It really is. So, I mean they have to get better, man. They have to get better. And you mentioned the red zone. They get to the red zone, Damon, all the time. They're 4th in red zone trips, or 4 red zone attempts per game, but they're 9th in red zone touchdowns per game, and they're 26th in red zone touchdown percentage per game. So they're getting to the red zone, but we even saw it in this last game. When they get to the red zone, they cannot create space. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
Well, I really hope the answer is found in more Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that guy, it feels like he creates space with the best of them. And when there is a lack of space, he'll do more with a sliver of daylight than most guys do with wide open running lanes. So I know that McCaffrey didn't exactly red zone deliver in his first game back. It was also his first game back. I'm expecting him to be even better. And for those, and I see some in the chat are saying like, look, man, Achilles tendonitis never goes away. Hey, pain management and dealing with this is probably something that is going to hang over the rest of Christian McCaffrey's career. But I also know that he's one of their best players. Everybody could be hurt at any given time, so they really can't go about addressing an afternoon of football from, geez, I hope nobody gets hurt, because anybody could be taken out at any moment in time. If McCaffrey's ready to go and he's playing like that, you play him. The player plays. So there you go. Someday he will be tackled and he won't get up. And that day will suck. But that day's not today, and hopefully it's not this Sunday, and hopefully it's not the remainder of the year, because they need this guy. They absolutely need Christian McCaffrey to be the best that he can be. We are brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. Larry, you want to get into some supers here? You want to
yeah, let's hit some supers earlier. I've gotten some criticism the last couple streams that we're not that we were waiting too long on the supers, and so we'll get to them a little earlier.
Hey, Larry, lock in, would you?
Lock in. Krueger, you're not going that good to be able to play supers in the 11th hour. You ain't going that good, Debo. All right.
Who do you think you are?
I've got one question I want to throw to the chat, by the way, as we're reading these super chats. If you guys could proliferate the chat with an answer to this question. If you could ask Kyle Shanahan one question today, and I'm not talking about a chat question like, "Hey Kyle, why do you keep fucking up?" Not one of these, "Hey Kyle, why is Purdy your kid? Why do you nothing like that. Get nothing smart ass, legitimate. If you were legitimately invited to the press conference today, and because I'm going to it later today, and you could ask one question to Kyle, and you want it to be, it's not a smart ass gotcha. It's got to be a question that he's going to say, "Man, that's a good question. That's smart. That's interesting. That advances the story. And here's a great long answer." What would your question be? If you have a great one, I promise you, I will choose it before the end of the stream here, and I will use that today. Can
I give you mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the question.
I'm gonna take out my pen here.
Here's what I would ask Kyle if I were sitting next to you at this press conference today.
Yeah, here it is. What do you got?
I understand that Christian McCaffrey is very tempting to use and to overuse, but why does Christian McCaffrey's arrival basically mean the departure of Mason and Garendo? How come there isn't a better distribution of carries? Will there be going forward?
Let's see. That's a good one. I know CMC is amazing, but why does his arrival equal the departure of Garendo and Mason's touches?
Right. And look, it was just 4 quarters. If you're telling me that, they're going to get, 20 carries for one, ultimately what Kyle wants 35, 40 carries. How about 20, 10 and 10? 20, 10 and 10. That seems to be a good idea. So
I like that one a lot. That's a great question. I know CMC is an amazing player, but Larry, why does his arrival equal the departure of Garendo and Mason's touches? And the question ultimately is, will they get regular touches going forward? Is that the question pretty much? Regular?
Larry, I used to be paid to ask sports questions. So
I know. And so far, Damon, that's the leader in the clubhouse.
Yes. I'm still in the media, everybody.
I'm jotting that one down because it's damn good. And that might be my question today. That might be my question.
All right.
Fuji Simeon, but we'll let the people in the chat also have their say if they can beat Damon's question, because Damon's a pro. But you guys are amateurs. But who knows? Amateurs beat pros all the time.
We're all pros over here on YouTube, I've been told.
That's true.
But we're all amateurs.
We're all amateurs.
YouTube, I've been told.
We're all just here. Fuji Simeon, thoughts on Clay's return and Warriors tribute. Thoughts on the Warriors win. What is your early thoughts on the Warrior roster? Kerr's game plan.
Fuji Simeon, we love you. We wish you would keep it a little more focused on the topic of Niners. You asked like 7-part questions that are way off topic. Good win. Welcome back, Clay. The hat giveaway was fantastic. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. Klay Thompson is a good shooter, and you saw what the difference between the two looked like last night.
What did Steph say at the end?
He basically was saying, "Don't leave me."
Yeah, I got, somebody in our stream last night. I did a post-game Warriors stream last night. Somebody in the stream had like what he said. I think Cy might have said it at the end of, Cy got it off some website, and it was like, you don't want to be here. He was like, "This is my house," or something like that. "You don't want to be here."
It's
like
the
that.
most fired up. I've never seen Curry react to a made shot like that in his entire life. I'm reading them out right now.
Something about my house.
Yeah, my house. You stay here in my. Basically, he's screaming at Klay Thompson.
No. He says you don't want. I think you don't want to stay here. That's what he said. You don't want to stay here. Like, and then he went at the end. You know what? We have celebrated Klay and Steph as a combo, and we've celebrated their relationship. The most under-discussed angle on Klay's return is the rivalry that they obviously have and the competition that they obviously have. Klay was trying to take that thing over. Steph said, not in my house. I'm taking it over. He went 12-0 to finish. I loved it. It was a great night. The tribute was beautiful. The Warriors did everything in their goddamn power to try to make Klay feel welcome and loved, despite the fact that they didn't want him anymore, and he read the tea leaves and left. I love the Warrior win. They play killer D. They had 7 blocks and like 13 steals. They're really good on defense. The only debate is, are they a really good regular season team that isn't going to be able to flip a switch and get to a new level in the playoffs and they're going out in the second round with 50-plus wins? Or are they going to get a trade in the middle of the season, maybe add one more piece and get into the finals and be standing there at the end like they were a couple years ago? I think it's all available. It's all possible.
Yes. We're not even at Valentine's Day yet. So let's.
And I had them winning 38 games, by the way.
Last year, the question was legitimate. Can they even compete with the best teams in the NBA? I think they've closed that window so far. To this point in the year, they've closed that question of, can they even be on the court with this team? They play like this. They play defense like this. They use their depth like this. They're going to be on the court with a lot of teams. Is playing 13 a night sustainable? It's not how NBA basketball works. There is a hierarchy on the court that is just how the game is played. And Kerr knows this. He will dial guys back, I think, as the season goes along and everyone starts finding their own real level. But I'm impressed with what I've seen so far. And let's get back to the Niners in the super chat.
It's also the only thing I'll say. One last thought on the Warriors. They're going to have lots of nights like last night where they win. And then when you look at that box score, you've got a question about Steve's rotation. My question to Steve last night would have been, Trace Jackson Davis, if he had just played, I don't know, 28 minutes, would have had like 15 and 18. Right. But he played great, and then you just took him out and you forgot he was there and you just never went back to him. So there's going to be a lot of that throughout the year. That's how deep they are. Fuji Simeon with another one off topic. He says, report Giants don't plan to meet with Soto at all. That's no need to talk about it anymore, or no need to think about the well said, I would say. Fuji Simeon's got this one. So it looks like Huff, Ward, Banks, Brendel, Mitchell, maybe Greenlaw are gone next year due to cap strategy after Lenoir and Purdy's contracts. I would say Huff gone, Ward gone, Brendel gone, Mitchell gone. Banks, I think they'll try to make an effort to re-sign, but he'll be difficult. Greenlaw, I hope they re-sign.
Well, here's the thing. Let's see what Greenlaw looks like as a player before we make any proclamations about what his future should look like. So let's just see what he looks like when he gets back.
Joseph Ehrenberg says every game is must win. Week 18 winner gets in. That's Niners Cardinals. Fuji Simeon, who's in a worse position, disarray franchise-wise? Dallas, the Bears, the Panthers, or the Jets? Larry, do you believe you were correct on your eval of Caleb? Oh, yeah. I mean, I told you guys at the beginning of the year that Caleb was fool's gold. And people were like, he's a generational talent. It's like, no, he's not. Generational talent? This guy is the slowest processor I have ever seen. At the top of his drop, he freezes. Their offensive coordinator's bad. He went to a bad offensive system, but he's got all kinds of weapons. Caleb's not great. The good quarterbacks from this draft, I think, are going to be Penix and Daniels, and I said it on draft day. I'm not a big fan of Nix, not a huge fan of Caleb, not a huge fan of Drake May, though he's looking better. He looked better than Caleb, that's for sure, head-to-head last week at Soldier. But yeah, no, Caleb is getting crushed. The players don't believe in him. He drops back to pass. He's the opposite of Brock Purdy. Literally opposite of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy throws it
Uh-oh, Larry froze. Larry seems to be frozen. Let me tell you what the problem is with the Chicago Bears. They don't know offense, and they haven't for over 100 years. And nothing ever changes that. There's no amount of Caleb Williams that has changed that. There's no amount of Matt Eberflus keeping him, firing him, changing Shane Waldron. There you go. You're back, Larry. You froze there for a second.
Yeah, no, well, on my side, we both were froze. Like you were spinning over here, I was spinning over here. So that's why I was kind of paused there for a second.
Okay. Well, either way, let me just tell you this about, who's in the worst situation. The Bears at least have talent. They need a new coach. They need a lot of new things, but there's something to work with there. Dallas, again, easy to make fun of, but at least there's some talent. There's something to work with there for the next regime. The Panthers are a mess, but at least they've got some young talent. The New York Jets are the least seriously taken franchise, I think, now in the NFL again. The Aaron
young talent too, though. They got Sauce. They got Quinnen.
They do, but the Aaron Rodgers experiment, it has paid zero dividends. Right. They have punted on 2 years of their young nucleus figuring it out, trying to figure out what they're going to be offensively. They changed coaches. They got a bad owner. Everything is off about the Jets, no matter how much talent they got. They need a new owner, a new coach, a new quarterback, a new everything. So
Dallas to me is the most screwed because Dallas has the boss isn't going to fire himself. And the boss is the problem in Dallas, and the boss won't fire himself in Dallas. So that really, I would say Dallas, even though Dallas has got a stadium, they've got Micah Parsons, they've got a number of things going on. I think Dallas is more doomed than the Bears, Panthers, or Jets. I think the Bears, Panthers, and Jets, it's about players. Dallas, it's about bad owner's son, too much meddling, not enough football people doing football jobs. Angel Morito says, morning, guys. Excuse my French, but why the F is Kyle keep putting Debo in the backfield? It's not 2019. You have 3 starting running backs. Why doesn't he put 2 backs and have MC or CMC in motion out to a wide receiver or other creative plays? Yeah.
I tell you what, maybe that's the other question in the clubhouse, Larry, that you could take down and ask Kyle Shanahan about today. Maybe put the, take the why the fuck portion of the question out of it and just say, Kyle, why do you continue to go back to Debo when there's not a lot of juice to be squeezed from that based on the results of doing it this year?
Yeah. And we've got this one from Fuji Simeon. He says, do they keep Ben Barch to play left guard to replace Banks when he leaves in free agency, or move Pooney to left guard to play with Trent, Nick or Colton to center, and the Niners draft a guard or tackle? Any good O lineman you have an eye on, Larry? Well, there's a bunch of O linemen that I have an eye on, but as far as their plans, I think you've got, I think they'd like to have Banks back. I think Brendel's probably replaceable. They've got Nugent, they've got Zakel, they've.
Looks like Larry froze again. So what I think is the interesting thing here about the question is they do have versatility across their line. So as the draft in front of them kind of plays out and, the player that you wanted is gone, and you wanted to go tackle, but now you got to go guard. Well, you got a guard that you can move around. Maybe you can even got a guard that you kick out to tackle. So I think the versatility of this offensive line will pay off here. It is. Krueger, I don't know why Larry's internet connection is so bad from his own studio all the time. It feels like he has more luck getting through shows out on the road than he does right here. All right, we can keep going with some star chats, though. We can get some supers. So thank you, Fuji Simeon, as always. More from Fuji Simeon. Instead of Debo, try Cowing on a jet sweep for once. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Again, Debo, if we all agree he is not as fast as he used to be or as effective as a runner as he used to be, why do you continue to do it? You know, when other guys have the one thing going for them that might make this play pop more, some speed, ask them to do it instead of just putting Debo back into a situation he's not finding much success with. JJ Raider, sponsor of the Ganja Jar, by the way. JJ Raider says, I'm not criticizing you, Larry. I'm challenging you because I believe in you. I don't even know where that came from. This is D. Martinez saying amateurs borrow, professionals steal. Yeah, there's an awful lot of truth to that. I mean, isn't that how comedy works, right? I mean, what Robin Williams was accused of being the guy who would sit in the back of Cobb's Comedy Club just taking notes, just taking ideas from other comedians. Again, greatness, people who are good at it, borrow. Great steals. It's an old adage. Oh, there he is.
I think I'm back.
He is back, boys and girls. Amateurs borrow, professional steal. We're moving right along, Larry. For King D-Ho says, for Kyle Shanahan. Oh, here's a question for you. Why does the pass protection often leave a hot coming for the quarterback? How come blitzers are getting through? I guess is the question that he would like you to ask Kyle Shanahan today. How come there's always an unchecked bullet being fired at Brock Purdy? And I don't know if it's always, but it does seem like picking up that blitzer has been a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. I'm going to jot that one down as well.
Finally, Big Tone 707 said, no, Clay is a great shooter. Nobody's Steph, Damon. Well, look, you're right about that. Clay Thompson is a great shooter, but the difference between the guy who is definitely on the top 75 of all time list and the guy who just got left off of it, I mean, which is Clay Thompson, was on full display last night. The difference between really good and all-time great is easy to see the difference between when you're looking at them in terms of rivalry. And look, you know, Clay Thompson had a nice shooting night last night. He's averaging 14 a night so far this year.
Wow.
So, you know, it's Steph Curry is twice the player Clay Thompson is. Twice the player. He is. He and Clay's great. Clay's great. But Steph is will be regarded as an all-timer, where Clay Thompson is certainly a his-timer. He's one of the best to play as he was playing. When we go back to write the list of the greatest players of all time, Clay Thompson's name is nowhere even near that list. It's the truth. Love the guy. Great shooter, but kind of a one-dimensional player.
Well, I don't know. He wasn't one-dimensional. He was definitely a good defender in his day. And now he's not a great defender, but he was a dogged defender. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. It was a great pick. He was an incredible pick. He's one of those guys that literally, I mean, I saw him at Wazoo. He was good. He wasn't this. He wasn't what he became. He was better in the NBA than he was at Washington State. He just continued to get better and better and better and better. And he just it was like a dog, chasing a ball. It's like it was tireless up and down the floor, tireless energy, great player. I was there on that Friday night with my daughter when he went for 37 against Sacramento in the third quarter. To this minute, Damon, it was the most amazing, almost out of body experience that I've ever had watching a sporting event. I've never seen one player turn a legitimate. Now, we're not talking about a WWE thing. We're talking about one player in a legitimate sport just basically render the other people on the floor on another level. Like, he's like, hey, it's like, guys, I'm up here and you guys are all down there. Every time he touched the ball, it went in. It just kept going in. And the joy and the feeling, it was a Friday night, and I'll never forget it. Every shot that went in, it was just like, whoa! And he made another. Whoa! Yeah. Oh, here comes Clay again, and he made it again. I could only imagine what it was like for the people broadcasting it, because it was just like, can you top this? He does. Can you top this? He does. I mean, it was amazing.
It was incredible.
It was amazing.
It was incredible. It is, yeah, it's one of the biggest endorphin rushes I've ever had being at a game. I would say that the two loudest moments of covering the Golden State Warriors, none of them come from playoff games. None of them come from NBA Finals games. The loudest moments covering the Warriors were Klay Thompson going for 37 and Baron Davis's dunk over Andrei Kirilenko. Well, I guess that was a playoff game. But those are the loudest moments I've ever heard in war, and they were both, over at Old Oracle Arena, which was, a great place to watch a basketball game. It really was. But those were special times. Look, Klay eats for free forever in this town. I'm not trying to say a bad thing at all about Klay Thompson, but the difference between good and great was absolutely on display last night. And the team with the great player ended up winning it because he hit the biggest shots in the biggest moments. And first name Stephen, last name Curry. Fuji Simeon, final super from him saying, Damon, sorry, I thought the super chats were always at the end of the show, so I don't organize my questions. I just kind of shoot them. All right, fair enough. I appreciate it, Fuji Simeon. You are, nobody drops more supers than you do. And you're right about this, Big Tony. He also missed 2 years of prime. Context matters. It does. Absolutely, Big Tone. Had Klay Thompson never suffered his devastating injuries, he's still a Golden State Warrior. But those injuries changed him physically. I also think that those injuries and the battle back from them changed him mentally a little bit. And the man who was, the famous Steve Kerr saying, there are low maintenance players and then there is a no maintenance player. And that's what Klay Thompson was. The minute Klay Thompson became a maintenance player with a deteriorating skill set, it was time to walk away. I think everyone's got to feel good about it.
He went, yeah. I mean, this is a win-win. It was a win for him to leave because he needed to, and it's a win for the Warriors to have him leave because he was two different players. When he first came up, he was light, and when I say light, I mean he just didn't care about. He didn't care about how many shots he took. He didn't care about his respect level or this or his minutes. It was just like, I just want to play. Let me play. That's it. And I think he just was almost played on mental autopilot, and it worked for him. But this last couple of years, it's all been about like trying to get it back. And, he's obviously battling these internal demons and having a hard time accepting the twilight of his career. And everybody's having to tiptoe around him, and Steve's putting him in even when he should be putting in other guys because he's thinking about Klay's ego and all these things that have nothing to do with winning basketball. We're entering into the Warrior equation. I'll say this: when you have to explain everything, when everything is like insider knowledge, you're not doing it the right way. And that's where the Warriors were last year. Everything had to be explained. Why is this really not just last year, Damon? The last 2 years. Why the fuck is Anthony Lamb playing so goddamn much? Oh, it's got to be explained. Why isn't Jonathan Kuminga playing more? Oh, it's got to be explained. Oh, why is Jordan Poole not in this? Well, no, it's got to be explained. You're not following the team. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? You're right. I'm not following all their minutia dog shit. I don't give a crap about any of that stuff. I'm just following the game, and I know who's good, and I know who should be playing, and they're not playing. Steve wasn't playing his best players because he was playing guys for all kinds of reasons that had nothing to do with basketball. And when you get there, you're lost and you're cooked, and that's where they were. And then I love Steve. I think Steve's a great coach. I don't like the people who go at Steve, but the Lamb minutes from a couple years ago just made no sense. No sense.
No,
you're gonna play Lamb over developing Moody and Kuminga. Where'd that get you? Where's Lamb now? As you still have an underdeveloped Moody and Kuminga, right? Don't you think maybe now looking back, wouldn't you have been wiser to give all those Lamb and minutes to Kuminga and Moody, and maybe they'd be better and more stronger rotation pieces at this point. So
what I think happened there, Larry, is Steve got caught trying to serve two masters, right? He's trying to keep this team. He thought that Anthony Lamb was going to be better for today than playing a guy tonight would be better for the Warriors tomorrow, because it was all about Steph Curry's today, and they got caught trying to serve two masters. The parallel paths thing, I think, screwed up everybody's thinking for a little while. But yeah, Lamb's not even in the league anymore. And yeah, that didn't make an awful lot of sense. Those were bad times. There's no doubt. One more super comes in from Fuji Simeon. Saw that come in, said, what are the solutions to the 49ers red zone efficiency? I tell you what, Larry, before we get into that.
That's a great one too.
Yeah. Why don't you show everyone how beautiful the water looks down in Half Moon Bay? I mean, I don't know if Captain Clay has ever sailed into Half Moon Bay to go to Sam's Chowder House, but I hope everyone watching gets down to Half Moon Bay to go to Sam's Chowder House. Absolutely wonderful, iconic location right on the water. And speaking of icons, there's one right there. That lobster roll, baby. You cannot find a better lunch or dinner in the Bay Area than that right there. There's more lobster in the lobster roll than there are in most lobsters. The Cioppino is legit. Everything about Sam's is legit. And on a pretty day, you cannot beat the trip to Half Moon Bay to go to Sam's Chowder House. We thank them for being sponsors here on Wake Up. So, Krueger, all right, hit me. What are the solutions to red zone efficiency? I got my answer. It's Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is the solution to this. I mean, I don't think that there is a coincidence, as Josh Dubow pointed out, that the 49ers got 30-yard catches from 5 players in the first game that Christian McCaffrey was back in. I think he opens up big play potential. McCaffrey, Jennings, Pearsall, Samuel, and Kittle all had receptions of 30 yards or more. It was the first time the 49ers have done that since almost 7 years ago in 2017, when they had 5 different guys pop for 30-yard plays. I think McCaffrey opens up explosive play opportunities all over the football field.
I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, he, we're talking about Steph a lot today. There's a gravitational, you can feel when Steph Curry's on the floor more so than any player that's ever played, in some ways, because he just has this, you have to guard him on areas of the basketball floor that, past generations said, oh, let him, he wants to take that shot. You let him have it.
Right.
And this generation, you say, no, you're not going to give him that shot because he's going to take that shot and he's going to make that shot.
Up Curry from 35 feet out, or
right. So he's changed. He's changed the game, and he when he's on the floor, there is that gravitational pull. And when you're swinging it on the perimeter, and one of the guys on the perimeter is Steph, and you're to his left or to his right, odds are you're going to get a good look because the defense is going to assume that he's going to take that shot. They're going to almost force him not to take that shot. So what are the solutions? There's really 3. It's all about space creation. Okay. It's about creating space in a small area. So there's 3 ways to do it. Force. So power. You put big people, Jim Harbaugh it, big people on the field, and you just power your way in. There is quickness, which is CMC. That's what he brings to the table for sure. And then there is ingenuity, or play design, if you want to call it that. And those are the 3 ways that you can create space. So you're either going to have excellent or better play design. And that's, to me, if you look at the Lions, I mean, I'm going to work on a video later this week about the Lions red zone play calling. It's just amazing. I mean, they create so much room. Now, I understand it in other parts of the field because they got Jameson Williams, he's super burner guy. Their red zone creation is a lot off of play design, and they're really, really good at it. Ben Johnson is really good at it. They get these amazing looks at the red zone. The Niners aren't getting those amazing looks. So to me, it's one of those 3 things. It's either quickness, power, or better play calling, better play design. I think that there's no other factor that I can think of other than mistakes, turnovers.
George Kittle tied for 2nd in the NFL in touchdown receptions, I believe, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Only Jamar Chase has more touchdowns. I think I read that right. 3 catches, 57 yards. I'd like to see more Kittle. But beyond that, I just like to see Kittle this Sunday, and hopefully we will. I know that he's been dealing with hamstring aggravation, I think is what Shanahan called it. What's the latest you've seen on Kittle? Do you think he goes on Sunday, Larry?
I do think he goes on Sunday. And not only that, they've got to use Saubert more as a blocker and just put Kittle in the pattern more. He's just not. They only targeted him 4 times. He's healthy. He caught 3 of them. He without Ayuk, they need other guys to step up, and that other guy that makes the most sense is Kittle, and they're utilizing him a lot as a blocker, and they're only putting him in the pattern a few times, and it's like, hey, guess what? Go find another offensive lineman and convert him to a blocking tight end. Go find a blocking tight end off the street. Go find another blocker. You have Pine, Willis, Tongas. You got 3 receiving tight ends there. One of those guys has to be sacrificed for a blocker. Go get a blocker and use George as a receiver more. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, is it time maybe to put another set of eyes on the 49ers offense? And I don't mean someone whose last name is also Shanahan. This isn't Mike helping Kyle out, but just fresh eyes on what feels like an offense that is stalling out in the wrong place on the football field. But again, having said all of that, the 49ers are averaging more than 400 yards of offense per game. They're second in the league, or third in the league in offensive DVOA. I mean, there's a lot to like, and I guess this is the frustration of it all. You know, there's the 49ers, Larry, have the traits that good football teams share. They also have many traits that bad football teams are defined by. And the inability to correct a glaring mistake, I think, is one of them. I was reading from Don Atkinson in 49ers Web Zone. He wrote a really good article. It was about, what feels like is there a calm to the 49ers, or is it a lack of urgency? Was basically, the question. And are they being undone by
There's no lack of urgency. There's no lack of urgency.
All right. Well, that's good. Because
you saw that. I think you saw their urgency with the Debo Pepper thing, is that the one thing you can say, whether you agree or disagree with Debo, whatever, we can get into that, whatever. But this is what happens when you get a bunch of guys who, really want to win and you inject a little pressure. If nobody cared, somebody brought this up, and I forget who it was. Some NFL player brought this up. There are teams where nobody would fight about anything because they don't give a shit. And caring is a big part of the beginning of anything. You know what I mean? Are you going to be a good broadcaster? Are you going to be a good YouTuber? Are you going to be a good football player? Do you care? Do you try? I know people who say that they, want to be great at something and they don't put forth very much effort. And it's like, well, dude, guess what? You're probably not going to be very good at it because you don't try very hard. And I always shocked me the number of people that I've met through the years who got jobs that were great jobs and weren't particularly good at it. And it just was, they didn't really try that hard at it. They didn't really work that hard. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? But you know what? That's the way it is sometimes. Not everybody is driven. The 49ers, I think, are very focused, very driven, very much aware that there's a lot of pressure here, which is why you start to see things come apart at the seams a little bit, where Debo's yelling at the kicker and Pepper's defending the kicker, and there's fisticuffs because they do care. They do care. There's no doubt. And as far as Fuji Simeon, did you get this one, Damon? What 49er game plan strategy for the Seahawks? If that's for us, that's fine. But I can't, obviously I'm not asking that question. Could you imagine me asking that question?
Kyle, can you tell us what your opening script is?
Kyle, what's the game plan this week?
Yeah. I'll tell you what the game plan is, though. It's simply like, hey, defensive line, wake up, get your job done. You made a very uncomfortable Geno Smith turn the ball over the first time you played him this year. Do that again. Get to Geno, make him uncomfortable, and just, when you see a guy, tackle him. How about that? And don't make a catastrophe level special teams mistake. And the 49ers are better than the Seahawks. They better handle their business on Sunday. They need to.
Dominant. And to me, it's, 49ers need to dominate the time of possession. Possession's going to be big in this game. Why? The Niners are second in the NFL in time of possession, right? They hold the ball for almost 33 minutes a game. The Seahawks are 27th in the NFL, and it's because they have no run game and they have no ability to sustain drives. So they go 3 and out, and they don't possess the ball. So to me, you're going to see the 49ers dominate time of possession in this game. The logical truth says, Fuji Simeon, I can donate as well. In regards to special teams, why can't the 49ers do what smart companies do, which is hire consultants, like proven retired special teams coaches? You know what? Logical truth. That's very logical. Here's the thing. We see this, and I'm a big advocate for this. We've seen the teams, like, who's the most celebrated team right now in the NFL?
It's the Lions, probably.
The Lions. And what did the Lions do a few years ago? They brought in a good young personnel guy from the Rams, but then they also brought in an old head like John Dorsey, and they paid him money to be a consultant around the draft. And look at the hits. Look at the hits. They are beelining right to Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson, the tight end Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra. I mean, they're hitting in the draft over and over. Now, some of those picks, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, they're like Bosa picks. It's like nobody could screw that up. You're talking about the second pick in the draft. So those picks pick themselves in some ways. But you got to keep hitting. You got to keep hitting. And they are hitting in the draft. I'd love to see the Niners, and I don't think they'll do this because I think they're too proud and they're too worried about the image. But I'd love to see them take like a Scott McCloughan or a John Dorsey and pay him $100,000 or whatever, some consultant fee, hire him for the springtime, and just get another set of eyes that isn't already in your building, that has no preconceived
fresh
notions.
Perspective.
And not only that, Damon, you know the way it works. There's a boss in every situation. And after a while, people start to align their thoughts with what they think the boss wants. So is everybody at work operating independent? No, not really. They're doing what the boss wants. Anyway, I got to go because that does it for us for the day. I got to go do a Niner thing. Fuji Simeon says Pooney did a good job when he had to handle Vita Vea. No question.
He did. Dude, Pooney's a real player, man. That kid's a real deal. Just don't need to worry about right guard as long as he's playing it. And you're not going to need to worry about lunch or dinner when you get down to Sam's Chowder House. Make sure you tell them Damon and Larry sent you. They love hearing that. We love hearing you tell them that. So you go down there, and as you're paying that check and as you're tipping generously, say, hey, Damon and Larry sent us down here. Make sure you tell Paul about that. Paul is the owner of Sam's. And thanks to Paul and Julie Shankman for being sponsors here. Larry, you go have a great day. Let me tell you, I've got Cyrus joining me. We're doing a little Warriors Wednesday. I think we're going to do a weekly hit together. And so Cyrus is joining me on the Plus at 11 a.m. And then later today, I am taping something with Mike Silver, who has worn all NFL media hats. Mike Silver and I are going to put something together that will be out a little bit later tonight or tomorrow, kind of a midterm grades. We're at the halfway point here in the NFL, so that's coming up. And the week rolls along, man. We're going to be starting week 11 tomorrow night, Thursday night. We'll be back on Friday morning with another wake up. So thanks to everyone for watching. Hit like and subscribe, please, on your way out. If you haven't already, do it to both channels. We simulcast this on both channels. And thanks very much to all. Krueger, outstanding. I know you got to run. I'll stop talking now. Cheers.
Yeah, I was just going to say, check me out on Niners Nightly tonight at 6 on KMBR. Not exactly sure what we're going to do tonight. I'll be down at practice here in about an hour. And then later on tonight, it is a Wednesday night. Paulie Mack will be in the house for a live stream. And I'll be on the First and 10 podcast with Brianna McDonald and Lindsay Polaris on the 49ers.com. And then we'll have hopefully some interviews from practice. So that's coming up later today. That does it for us. For Damon, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for making Wake Up part of your day. Go out there and be a football guy.